Boys, running back rankings today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I personally think that he actually has the highest ceiling out of any running back in this class.
I think it's impressive. Saying the athleticism wasn't there, I think, is just completely untrue because he does great avoiding tackles. He's great side to side. He gets to the sideline quick and he moves down the field. He does everything that I would want out of a running back.
Do we think Raheem Mostert is an amazing running back? No. Does he have injury problems? Yes. But are any of these guys talented enough to beat out Raheem Mostert? I don't really know. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WNP podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how are you feeling on this doom and gloom Tuesday afternoon?
I am swell, actually, as always. That's just my life. I live it very swellly. It could be a little more swell if it wasn't so doomy and gloomy outside, and it could be even more swell if there wasn't somebody else on this call with us.
Yeah, and that other person on the call, Alec King, coming back for the running back rankings. Alec, how are you feeling on this doom and gloom Thursday?
I'm doing amazing. I'm very happy to hear Chase's voice. He just sounds so cute today.
So this is what I mean. He's icky.
All right, well, we got a really good show on tap today. Going to be talking about the big first wave of free agency that hit. We're probably even going to get some updates as we're recording. We are recording on Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is St. Paddy's Day. I will be traveling home and then partaking in the festivities, so we will not be able to record then. So if we did miss some signings, I apologize, but we've got a lot to talk about in general when it comes to signings. And then running back rankings. We're going to continue our series of rankings within the NFL draft, and as we continue to go on, we're eventually going to lead into that alternating mock draft I mentioned in last week's episode. But first up, guys, we've got to talk about free agency. Kind of give me your overall feel of things. How have you guys thought free agency has gone? Is there still some players there that you're like, why are they still there? Or is just general feelings, I guess, of free agency so far?
I mean, there's not like too many huge names that I think are left. I mean, this was kind of an underwhelming class to begin with, aside from the obvious offensive lineman, but I do like seeing that the Chargers picked up Corey Lindsey. I think that's his name.
Lindsley, right?
To help Lindsley, yeah, there's an L in there, yeah. Corey Lindsey. Because I really think that Herbert needed the protection, and now that he's getting it, I think that they are going to be really good. But the one big surprise to me is that the Patriots went with two tight ends. They signed both Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith to not small contracts. So, I mean, I guess that they're really going to go for that two-headed tight end attack like they did a long time ago. I think it's just all about if Cam can, get them the ball and be an efficient quarterback. But, I mean, not too many huge surprises for me, personally. Yeah,
so this is I get what you were saying, kind of an underwhelming class. There's some good offensive linemen, like some good tier 1 type guys, and it drops off. And then it's a good receiver class too, but none of the big receiver dominants have fallen yet. It's all been kind of the smaller guys. The Patriots, they've been incredibly active. They signed 2 receivers. I was shocked to see that it was Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar that got the paydays from them. It's just weird, but whatever works for you, I guess. But just the whole signing, both those tight ends, they signed combined $87.5 million contracts. That's a lot for 2 tight ends. And no, these guys are not going to be Gronk and Hernandez. These are 2 good tight ends, but they are not Gronk level. They are not Hernandez level. So it's not going to be that type of thing. They might maybe want to try to replicate something like that. Cam is just not a very good thrower. Like last season, the first half of the year when he was playing well, he was still only throwing for 191 yards per game. And he just dropped off after he had COVID. So maybe this offseason he'll be able to recover and the Patriots can, improve. Maybe he'll throw the ball a little bit better, but I don't have much optimism. But other than that, I mean, I'm disappointed just because the Lions have done nothing. I don't expect them to do much of anything, but they really haven't done very much other than re-signing their own guys or signing 2 of their own guys. And then I feel bad for Mike over there. I know he was, pretty down yesterday. Still probably feeling pretty down today.
Make sure to go check my Twitter. I put I'm not okay.
Okay.
I was expecting some more outreach. All I got was 2 likes, but no, wait. I want to go back to the Patriots real quick. Cam Newton, excuse you. My goodness, that's staying in the podcast. What the hell? Some douchebag with their Mustang came right by my window, sat there, smirked at me, and then fucking revved the thing. No, I didn't actually do that, but that's what it seemed like. But going back to the Patriots, they brought in 4 new weapons for Cam Newton. So if we're looking with Chris logic, Cam Newton's worth at least 2 first-round picks now.
Oh, God.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, definitely.
And I know Chris, he listened to the last episode and said, I can't wait to school you guys with Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence stuff. Not sure where we went wrong with that. But also wanted to talk about the Patriots and their big signings. Obviously, you guys mentioned the wide receivers, the tight ends. They also brought in Matt Judon, Jalen Mills, Davin Godchaux, Henry Anderson, a bunch of guys, even Trent Brown through trade, which we talked about in last episode. So Belichick has a down year, obviously, while Brady goes and wins the Super Bowl. Then we see the Patriots go out and acquire basically everyone out there, not necessarily great names, but, bringing in guys that should be able to compete for a position. How does that make you guys feel about Belichick and Brady and their kind of relationship and kind of now a rivalry as of sorts?
It's interesting. Like, you're bringing all these pieces and hope that you can do something, but at the end of the day, Cam Newton's only going to take you so far, and the quarterback really does matter so much in the NFL, especially nowadays. Bill's trying to make the team so rock solid around him that he just can't fail. And maybe that's the case. Maybe he finds enough success running and throwing where the defense just plays phenomenally and you can't do anything about it. Like that very well could happen. But like, I still just a hard time believing it. I still think if they found a better option at QB, they'd be in a great situation. If they had like just even a step up at QB, they could be a Super Bowl contending team with Bill Belichick as the coach and the weapons that they've added. And hell, who wouldn't want to see a Patriots and Bucks Super Bowl, honestly?
I know I wouldn't, personally.
All right. Okay. Loser.
But, I mean, I think, like, if you look at some of these signings, a lot of the guys that they're getting are younger. Like, Jonnu Smith, 25. I think Hunter Henry's 26. Judon, I think, is only 28, which obviously isn't super old when you're talking about a linebacker. So I think maybe that this could more so be, like, for the future. Like, the weapons he's getting are not super old guys, and I think that they should draft a quarterback this year, and if they do draft a quarterback this year, they're going to be a contender next year. Like, ride Cam for one more year. Just I don't think he's going to even get them a playoff win or even to the playoffs, even with all these signings. So I think that this could be a sign that they're more so looking towards the future, because it's not like they're signing these guys to like 1-year deals other than Cam, obviously. So I think that they are more so building for the future. May draft a quarterback this year, if not this year, next year, and then I think that they could really be a contender with that already stellar defense, bringing Judon in, Donta Hightower coming back from opting out. There was another player that opted out that I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think give this team one more year and they're going to be like a legitimate contender.
Well, I mean, I think Cam Newton's elite, and if anyone wants to pay us 2 first-round picks for him, that would be perfect in my end. I think Cam Newton can do something with these players, and I think they brought in the tight ends because Cam Newton had a lot of success with Greg Olsen. Do I think they're going to be a contender right away? No, I don't. But there are some other teams I want to mention in this free agency market. I think first I want to bring up Aaron Jones gets re-signed with the Green Bay Packers. Packers haven't really done much else, but I did want to bring this up because they spent a first-round pick on Jordan Love last year and a second-round pick on A.J. Dillon. However, neither of them are going to be the Packers starters this year.
It's just weird management of assets to me. Like, I like A.J. Dillon, and I would have never taken him in the second round, honestly. But you take him in the second round, you think that they're going to move on from Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. They move on from one, not the other. Still think Dillon gets featured in some way, But just to not have your second round pick really be used as like a primary piece is kind of a waste. And then, what we've talked about Jordan Love before, I get, you want to have your backup plan ready and groomed for whenever Rodgers is done, but it's just tough not having a first round pick play for 3-4 years.
I mean, coming from an Aaron Jones owner in fantasy, I like that they kept Dillon instead of Williams because obviously, like, you look like this is more so like the fantasy aspect, but like you want to see like your fantasy back getting those receptions, and I think that's opening that up for Jones. I think Dillon could maybe get like 10, 12 carries a game, if not more. I think they're definitely going to be using him kind of like in the opposite of a Jamal Williams role, because Jamal Williams is more of a pass catching back. I think they're going to give that to Jones and then give Dillon some more carries. So I think that we're going to see like a lot more of Dillon this year. But I agree with the Jordan Love thing. I mean, it worked for them in the past with Favre and Aaron Rodgers, but I honestly don't see Aaron Rodgers slowing down anytime soon. I think he's going to play maybe even as long as Brady's playing right now, which means he's still got a few years left. And I think that he's going to play it in Green Bay with how amazing he looked last year. But and I say that obviously before the draft, because if they go into this next draft and just don't focus on helping Aaron Rodgers at all, then maybe he's going to want out. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think re-signing Aaron Jones was a great move, and I mean, we talked about it. I remember last year on one of the pods that drafting Jordan Love was just kind of, it just doesn't make sense like at all for the team. So great coaching, not great managing, in my opinion, from the Packers.
Yeah, I think it's just an absolute waste of 2 picks for them to, bring back Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones is great, but to bring him back when you just drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round and then letting go one of your best offensive linemen in Corey Linsley, I think that was a mistake. We'll have to see what happens. But there's 3 teams I want to talk about here. I will assign both of you one of them. So, Chase, you'll get to talk about the Jags and what they have done. And then, Alec, you can talk about the Buccaneers and how they've been able to retain so many players. And they continue to look to retain Ndamukong Suh and others. But quickly, with the Jets, for my end, Corey Davis, love the signing. I think Corey Davis can be a big help for Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson or whoever is the quarterback of the Jets start of next year. Him next to Denzel Mims and why am I forgetting his name? Slot receiver. Jamison Crowder. I think that could be a really nice trio. Carl Lawson, he was my favorite defensive end in the free agent market. Even though he didn't have the numbers like a Shaq Barrett, the amount of pressure he was able to put on the quarterback, absolutely love it. And it was sad to see him go. And then Gerard Davis, not a player that has been great or anything, but a former first round pick, kind of a prove it deal. It's only 1 year, $7 million. So nice there for the Jets. All right, Chase, let's talk about the Jags really quickly. Let's try to move through these somewhat quick here, and then we can talk about the unfortunate circumstances of the Bengals.
Yeah, so I mean the Jags, they've been pretty active so far. They haven't signed any they've signed a couple like good players. They just before the podcast began, they signed Shaquille Griffin. So that was a nice signing there. In terms of like offensive talent, nothing too crazy. Just signed Jamal Agnew and Philip Dorsett. So they're trying to kind of get some speed going on the team. Urban Meyer talked about that. He really wants the team to play fast. So it's starting off good so far. And the Carlos Hyde signing was just maybe a decent extra piece too. He can help kind of
elite, better than Robinson.
He can help take the workload off Robinson because that dude, he touched the ball 40 times a game, it seemed like last year, and it broke him down by the end of the year. So, they can get him a little bit of a break. It'll just help preserve him. They're making really the right kind of moves. They're not spending they're spending well, but they're not, investing too heavily on things that they don't necessarily need. They're just trying to build the right pieces, and then they're going to build the rest of the draft.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, Chase. And actually, one quick thing. I think that Urban Meyer is trying to emulate the Chiefs, it seems like. Because, it seems like he's obviously planning for Trevor Lawrence over Justin Fields because, Lawrence has the arm. He wants to go with speedy receivers that Lawrence can hit downfield and stuff like that. So I like it. And they're, revamping their defense after an abysmal free agency last year, cutting some of their better players. It didn't really make sense. So I think that that's going to be a good new look team. So I'm excited to see what they do. For the Buccaneers, I keep seeing a tweet that says, all these quarterbacks are wondering why they can't get offensive linemen to protect them or why they're not getting the weapons. It's because of these huge contracts. But then you look at Brady. Brady took another pay cut so that he could keep his team together. And they franchised Chris Godwin, which we talked about last week. And you re-sign Shaquille Barrett, who's a huge help to that team. Their best pass rusher, big disruption on their defense. Re-sign the veteran Devonte David, who's a huge help for them. Great presence. Love him. One of my favorite linebackers in football. And then they bring Gronk back, who lit it up in the Super Bowl. Not that big of a signing. Only got a 1-year deal, $10 million. And I saw a tweet today actually saying that they're in talks with Sue, Fournette, and Antonio Brown about bringing all three of them back. I think that the reason this team is still looking so good is because all these players they're not looking for that big payday. They're looking for another Super Bowl. So they're whatever. They're not looking for the most money out there. They just want to win. So
yeah, absolutely. They're going all in for the repeat. I was shocked that they were able to already get all these guys that they've re-signed, already get all these guys back, but also still trying to lock up Sue, Brown, and Fournette. Absolutely crazy. If you didn't know, you can actually text Tom Brady too, so make sure to do that. But just really quickly, I know we said we were going to talk about the Bengals next, but very, very quickly, I do want to talk about the Saints and the restructure of Taysom Hill's deal. 4 years, $140 million. Seems like a bit much for a guy who has never been a starting quarterback in the NFL.
So it's not like a standard 4-year, $140 million deal. Russell Wilson signed one of those. It's not that type of deal. This is a completely voidable contract, so at any point, they can literally just say, all right, we're done with this. We're not paying it anymore. And then it stops on that day. Everything that he's been paid, he gets, but everything further, he's not owed a dime. So it's a weird situation. Them trying to maneuver around the cap. They can kind of backload the contract a little bit this way. It's a strange, unique situation. I think the Saints are, even though it's a voidable contract, I think they're digging a hole for themselves more than they're helping themselves. I don't think Taysom Hill helps them win a Super Bowl or anything. Does Jameis do that? Maybe not either, but still they bring back Jameis Winston to, make it a true competition for this job. They gave him $12 million as well. It's just such a strange situation. We've never seen really anything like this from an NFL team.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember, the Saints have been in have had cap trouble, but they always somehow find a way to get out of it and still have a great team year in and year out. So, I mean, I think that Jameis should be the starter there. I'm not a huge Taysom Hill guy, so I think even if the contract is voidable, it's kind of pointless. Obviously Jameis signed a contract that's a lot less than that. I know that there's a lot of incentives and weird stuff with Taysom Hill's contract, like you said, just just trying to help out the cap and all that. But I still don't. I personally just really don't understand it. Why are you so focused on keeping him? They could clear up so much cap and help their team out so much if they cut him. Just throw Jameis, maybe signed another quarterback that can be their backup. But I don't know. I mean, the Saints are the Saints, and they're always going to be a contender. I mean, in my opinion, even in a down year for Breeze, they were a contender. So they're keep doing what they're doing, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how Sean Payton handles the whole situation now that Drew Brees is gone. Obviously, it's kind of a similar situation to the Belichick-Brady. I mean, Belichick, Sean Payton, both thinking, they're the best in the world, they're geniuses, and now their star quarterback is gone. How do they handle that? Belichick didn't handle it very well his first year. However, with all these signings, he's trying to change that in the second year. We'll see how Sean Payton does it. But this is where, Chase and Alec, you have a very important job. I am on the ledge. You're going to have to talk me off of it because holy shit. Cincinnati comes in with the 6th most cap space in the league. Carl Lawson and William Jackson, 2 of our best defenders. They are on the market. However, they were saying, hey, the Bengals have the first shot. We would come back, but we are on the free agency market in general. So what happens? We don't get either of them back. And I can tell you that William Jackson, even though he's not been signed, he is not coming back. Carl Lawson's gone. William Jackson's gone. We bring in Trey Hendrickson and Chidobe Awuzie. Downgrades. Even though Hendrickson had more sacks last year, I think he was second in the league or something with 13.5 sacks. Love to see that. However, he is abysmal against the run. And what division are we in? The AFC North with the Ravens and the Browns. And the run game is so very dangerous in that division. So downgrade there. Chidobe Awuzie, downgrade from William Jackson. I don't really think I have to say much else. And why did we let these two players walk? Well, so that we would have the cap to sign linemen to protect Joe Burrow. Joe Thuney, one of the top guys on the list. Oh, he's on the Chiefs. All right, Corey Linsley, how about him? Oh, he's on the Chargers. Okay, well, how about some other guys? Isn't there other guys out there? Taylor Moton? Oh, no, he got franchise tagged. Shoot. Well, we are now on to day 2, and there are no longer any tier 1 offensive linemen available because the Bengals decided, you know what, we're not going to use that money on offensive linemen. We're going to get outbid on every single level. This team has gone in the complete opposite direction of what they did last year. Last year, they brought in a lot of players that were talented and that could help the team out. They brought in Joe Burrow. They spent a lot of money. I was thinking, okay, here's the change I wanted to see for so damn long. And then we come into this season, 6th most cap space. All we got to do is fix the offensive line, add maybe a piece or two on the defensive line, and maybe we can start to be a little bit of competition in our division. And we didn't do it.
So certainly, like, they had to have made offers and made contacts. So my main guess here is that they underestimated the value of the offensive line market. That's really all I can say. Nothing else really makes too much sense because you let these guys go. So you can try to get that offensive line, maybe add a wide receiver piece because AJ Green's gone. They need another startable tight end or startable receiver, excuse me, and even tight end too. As I said, that could use a piece of tight end. So you got these holes. They thought there was a chance that they would fill here in free agency. They underestimated the offensive line market. They overpaid for 2 defensive players, guys that I think will make impacts and they'll still be fine starters, but obviously not worth that value, as you mentioned. And now they're kind of in a panic mode. They're hoping to God that they can get Penei Sewell with that 5th overall pick. Most likely they should, but you never know. I imagine they signed some depth guys that, maybe they can replace the Bobby Harts of the world, but who actually knows? They're not in a great spot. That's for sure.
I mean, there still is some okay offensive linemen available. Most of them are on the older side. So I mean, they still could go out and get some of those guys. But yeah, I mean, I really don't understand the Bengals as an organization. I like Trey Hendrickson personally. He hadn't really started at all in his career. Comes out this last year, starts, and was one of the league leaders in sacks. So, I mean, that's great. But like you said, abysmal against the run. Obviously a downgrade from Carl Lawson. While Carl Lawson didn't have as many sacks, I'm pretty sure he was 2nd or 3rd in QB pressures. So, even if you're not getting those sacks, you're still disrupting the quarterback. So, and also Carl Lawson was solid against the run. So, he was an all-around, defensive lineman. But Awuzie, I don't understand that signing, especially since I don't think William Jackson's contract is going to be that much more, and he is just leaps and bounds better. But I don't know. I mean, I would have been happy with either of those signings on the Lions personally, but we're definitely in different areas since like you said, the Bengals have the 6th most cap. I don't really have much way to talk you down because it's just brutal for them. Even if they get the top offensive linemen still available, these guys are only going to be playing 2-3 more years, and who even knows if they're still going to be effective. So I don't know. Like Chase said, let's just hope that they get Sewell at 5.
And the one big problem is that I was reading Twitter the whole time, and obviously that doesn't help, but when all those offensive linemen go, I see all the Bengal experts, all right, now it's time to prioritize Carl Lawson. We're letting him go adrift so that we could have this money for the offensive linemen. We didn't do it, so time to bring him back. He goes to the Jets. Then we bring in Trey Hendrickson. Oh, for the same cap hit. For the same damn cap hit. $15 million a year. So I don't get why we downgrade for the same exact money. Actually I do. It's because Mike Brown doesn't want to pull any money out of his pocket for bonuses or guaranteed money. He just wants it to be contract-wise. So that's why we have to go Hendrickson over Lawson. And the big problem here, what if the Dolphins go Penei Sewell? I
I
think
it's not impossible.
we're basically forced to go Rashawn Slater, which I like Slater. Do I think he's number 5 in the whole draft? Probably not. I'd probably put him closer to the 8 to 11 range, but I mean, it's very possible that Penei Sewell goes before the Bengals pick, and it's just it's not very fun as a Bengals fan right now. But we'll get off the negative and talk more about the draft. Boys, running back rankings today. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, did a lot of film watching last night, and my YouTube suggestions are now all quarterback and running back film, which is fun. But at the same time, when I want to watch what else do I watch? Call of Duty videos. Then, it's harder to find. But here we go. Running back rankings going to work the same exact way as it did last time. We'll introduce our top 8, and then we will go in deep talk with the certain running backs, do a little debate type of thing. So we'll let Alec go first. Alec, give me your 1 through 8, and then Chase, you will go right after.
All right. Well, first, I feel like this shouldn't be a surprise. I don't know. You never know Chase on the podcast, I guess. Travis Etienne, a little bit on the older side, stayed for his senior year. Great all-around running back, Some struggles with fumbling, but still great all-around. Najee Harris, dude just has, monster legs. People are saying that he's going to rival Saquon with those calves and thighs. Excited to see him in the NFL. 3, Javonte Williams. Heard so much about him. Loved watching his film. Looks great. Excited. Kenny Gainwell, someone who didn't end up playing last year, but the year before just absolutely lit up college football. 5, Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. Think he deserved to be the workhorse at Ohio State. Definitely think he would be ranked a little bit higher if he did. Randare Stevenson from Oklahoma. Not a name a lot of people talk about, but I think watching a lot of film, he looks like an NFL-style running back. He has the potential skill set of a 3-down back and a bruising running back, and really knock some people on their butts. Javion Hawkins, actually my favorite guy, based on film alone. He was just so much fun to watch. A lot of big playability there, and someone that I feel like neither of you are going to have on your list. I honestly might butcher his name a little bit. Jermaine Martin out of North Carolina A&T. Another person that I just absolutely loved watching his film and could be a huge sleeper in this draft.
All right, so my number 1, I really think the number 1 and number 2 could go either way. So my number 1 is my preference, and I think he's just more bound for success in the NFL level. Najee Harris. I know a lot of people are starting to come around to that way too. My number 2 is Etienne. Etienne adding on that extra weight and when measuring in his pro day really helps that case too. So you could easily put him number 1, and that's perfectly fine with me. Number 3, Devonte Williams. I got the same top. If I'm not mistaken, my top 5 players are all the same as Alex, not necessarily the exact same order. So number 3, Devonte Williams. Number 4, Kenneth Gainwell. Number 5, Trey Sermon. We'll talk more about them coming up. The number 6 got Michael Carter, the second UNC running back. He was someone I was a little bit lower on, but more recently, the last couple of days, I watched him more and more. Kind of grew on me a little bit, so he's up there. Number 7, got Jarrett Patterson out of Buffalo. This is a guy who just dominated the MAC, and sure, it's the MAC, and he's a smaller dude, but he's shown enough to me on film that he's got some elite tools. And then my number 8, Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State. Another dude. He's got great side-to-side athleticism. Not necessarily a burner, but he can move well, and he's got decent size too.
Absolutely. All right, my 1 through 8, Travis Etienne, number 1. Najee Harris, number 2. Number 3, Javonte Williams. Number 4, Michael Carter. Surprised I haven't heard his name very often from you guys over there. Number 5, Trey Sermon. Number 6, Kenny Gainwell. Number 7, Kylan Hill. That's the guy I was talking about last night, Chase.
Okay.
Kylan Hill, I'll talk about him later, but he might be my favorite back in this group. Now, do I think he's going to be as good as Etienne or Harris? No, but just the physical tools and the tape that I watch from him, absolutely love it. And then number 8, a name that a lot of people are down on, but I mean, if we're looking at last year with Kenny Gainwell, why can't we look at last year with Chuba Hubbard, number 8? Guy was the best running back in the league last year. So I think if he could do it, then why can't he still do it? But we'll talk about running backs as a whole now. We'll start with Travis Etienne. Chase, why don't we talk about Travis Etienne first? Obviously, you have him as your number 2. However, you said it could go either way. You just prefer Najee just a little bit more. You were impressed that he put on some weight and that he ran a low 4.40. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my one issue, or not one issue, I got kind of 2 issues with Etienne, I should really say. So one was the size. It wasn't like it was a big issue. It was just if he could add on some weight and maintain that speed, then that'd be great. He solved that. My other main issue is he's not an elusive guy. He's just a straight down the field sprinter. He gets away from everybody. So if he hits the open hole, he's gone every single time. It's kind of like a Raheem Mostert type of runner, but he's not going to be bouncing around. He's not going to get around dudes. If he can break the tackle, then he can continue running too, because he can break tackles. He broke them at a pretty high rate. So he's really got no flaw to his game other than just could see a little more looseness out of it. He really improved his game, catching the ball out of the backfield this year, ran some routes and looked pretty good. He didn't have as much success running the ball, but since he did, increase that receiving ability, and he had 3 years of tremendous success running the ball, it's really no issue at all. So, a lot of people have him at number 1. If you don't have him at number 1, you have him at number 2. That's how it works. Like Najee and Etienne are pretty safely people's top 2. And you really can't go wrong either way.
Yeah, I even saw some Javonte Williams at number 1. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Alec, your thoughts on Etienne, why you have him at number 1?
I agree with everything Chase said. I loved I didn't have to watch a ton of film because I watched so much of Clemson last year, but still watched a few highlights here and there. But I love his receiving ability. He looks like he could play slot receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, based off of the way that he runs routes and can catch the football. One thing that Chase didn't mention that I mentioned when I was talking about him, the one big problem I have with him is ball security. Out of most of these guys, I think he struggles with that the most, and that's something that's not necessarily easily solved at the NFL level, just because there's going to be harder hitters, better defensive players, these types of players that are trying to strip the ball from you. So that makes me a little nervous. So we'll see if he can kind of adjust that and fix it a little bit. But I love him. You guys have known that. I've loved him for a few years, always talk about him. So I'm excited to see where he goes. But yeah, other than the fumbles, I don't see much or many bad things about his game.
And Alec talked about putting him in the slot. Clemson even used him on the outside to do screen passes. So he's a very good receiver as well as running back. So that's why he is in my number 1 position. I think the number 1 thing he needs to work on is pass blocking. If he wants to be a 3-down back, I think that's a big key for the 3rd down plays. He's going to need help on pass blocking. But at the same time, when you think of Travis Etienne, he's a guy that can make plays out of the backfield receiving. So does he need to be a great pass blocker if he's going to be running routes on 3rd down? You never know. That's why he's my number 1. If it was absolutely needed for him to be a pass blocker, then he'd probably be my number 2, because it is not at its peak when it comes to the running back talent. But we'll now talk about Najee Harris, Alec and my number 2, Chase's number 1. The guy's got all the power in the world, most power. Well, I won't say the most powerful back. He's up there, but as well as the Oklahoma running back, that big boy, he's got some power too. But Chase, why don't you talk about Najee Harris? And you said there was even a rumor that he could run in the 4.4s.
Yeah, so apparently I saw last summer, Alabama's off-season workouts, he ran a 4.45. If that's the case and he runs that at their pro day, then holy hell, he's gonna shoot up everybody's draft boards. He's gonna everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, running back 1 for fantasy, and he's just gonna be the absolute love child. Because if he can run the same 40 as Etienne, and is a lot bigger, and maybe might be more. Not that the elusiveness is that much of an improvement. Still might be more elusive too. That could be enough for people to really get on that Najee train. And he's a decent enough receiver out of the backfield too. He's not someone you're gonna want to throw the ball to 100 times a season. But he's good enough to get the job done 100%, kind of like what Leonard Fournette, has done the last couple seasons, with the Jags and with the Bucks. He's caught the ball well enough out the backfield. So it could be, that kind of role as a receiving back. But as a pure runner, the dude is just fantastic to watch. The size, he's hard to take down. He trucks through. He has good speed too, because when he does hit a hole, he gets away and it's hard to track him down. So he's really destined to have great NFL success. Both these top 2 guys, I think, are kind of locked to have success unless they go to just the worst situation ever.
Yeah, and Alec, is it the receiving ability that puts ETN over Najee for you, or was there something else as well?
It's pretty much just the receiving ability. The one thing I do have in my notes, I do think based off the film that I watched that Najee Harris is a slightly better pass blocker. So it definitely was hard for me to decide between the two, but it really is the receiving ability, and also I just feel like I said with the whole like Etienne could like straight up play the slot. Like Najee Harris is decent enough at catching the ball, like he'll be all right, but he just does not have that like pure like he could play strictly receiving back. Well, I think Etienne can, but Etienne also has that pure running ability. And Chase mentioned Fournette about like how Fournette is kind of similar to Najee Harris. I think that's what you meant by that.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually have that I think that a good comparison is like you take some aspects from Fournette and actually a few things from Saquon. And I'm not saying that he's going to be them put together and be like better than them. I'm just saying that like you look at their play styles and like look at their tape from college, he plays very similar to those two types of players. So, and judging by the success that they've had in the NFL, I think Najee is definitely a lock for success as well.
Yeah, I think Najee is the best pure runner in this draft class. Like the way he can find the holes and the way that he just keeps his legs churning, like it's awesome. And you're 1 and 2. I mean, don't take this as comparisons because I haven't even come up with comps for these two guys just because I feel like it's harder to comp guys who are at the top of the draft rather than it is towards the bottom of the draft. But look at Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. I mean, Joe Mixon, he can make a lot of stuff happen out of the backfield. So can ETN. Nick Chubb, he's not as great in that aspect, but he's just a dominant runner and a better runner than Mixon, just like Najee is a dominant runner and better runner than Travis Etienne. Now, again, those aren't my comparisons. I'm not even saying those guys are going to get to the level of Mixon and Chubb. They could not. Who knows? But that's just kind of the differences between the two. And I like both of them a lot. But as a guy who's looking for a 3-down back, I don't want to run multiple backs. I think that ETN just has that slight advantage right now because of the 3rd down game, the passing game. So that's why I have him at number 1. But let's go to Javonte Williams. I think all of us have him at number 3. What did we see out of Williams that we liked? What did we see out of him that we didn't like?
So starting off, tremendous size, 5'10", 220. That profiles as an all-purpose back in the NFL. That's like the ideal size you really want from a running back. It's small enough where he can kind of get lost in the field, when linebackers are looking at him, but thick enough where you try to tackle him, he's going to break away. So he's great in that aspect, but he catches the ball well too. He's someone that you can run routes with him, you can catch out of the backfield. It's really impressive what he's done at UNC. He kind of had a breakout season, just found the end zone, night in, night out. He had an over 20 touchdowns this year, 19 on the ground, 3 receiving, if I'm not mistaken. He kind of does it all. And to have that size do it all, he'll probably run a low 4.5s. Maybe he can sneak into the 4.4s, but I'd say 4.5s are probably safe. Like everything combines for just a true all-purpose back.
I personally think that he actually has the highest ceiling out of any running back in this class. Because he really is all around, and watching his film, he almost never gets tackled at the second level. He breaks those tackles more often than not, and it's amazing to watch, and I think that he's going to really translate well into the NFL. And like Chase said, I think he will squeak into the 4.4s. I think my prediction is about a 4.48, and with his size and his ability to break tackles, if he can run that would be insane, and I think that people might even put him above Harris and Etienne on the draft boards if he can do that.
Yeah,
possible.
And I have seen that. I've seen Javonte Williams at number 1 from, I don't remember who it was. I think it was like CBS or Yahoo or something like that. They had Javonte Williams at number 1. I like Williams a lot. I think he could definitely have the highest ceiling in the draft. But every time I watched him, I just kind of like, I don't know, like in a cartoon, you would see a bull like running through a city. He just like run through like glass shops and everything. That's how I saw Javonte Williams. It like, I don't want to say he looked clumsy as he was running, but like when you look at him versus Michael Carter, there's a big difference. And it just looked like Javonte Williams was just like, head down, I'm running, no matter who's there, they're getting hit. And if I go down, then I go down, but I'm just going to keep churning my legs while my head's down. That's what I saw. I don't know. It just looked like he was a bull.
I'm going to be honest, like, when I was watching, there was, like, I'm not trying to, like, I actually don't have this comparison down, but when I was watching him, something that like, a person that I thought he played similar to is Nick Chubb in the NFL. Like, Nick Chubb will just, like, he has that, like, he always has, like, both arms, like, holding onto the ball when he's, like, running up the middle, and that's something that I saw Javonte Williams do. And, like, I do agree that, like, he does look kind of clunky and stuff, but, like with Nick Chubb, sometimes when you watch him, he looks a little bit clunky, but he's also, in my opinion, the first or second, or I'd say he's probably behind only Derrick Henry for the best pure runner in the NFL right now, like Nick Chubb is. So that aspect I like. But the other thing is this last season, he actually, like, was solid at receiving as well. And he's that big bruising back, like you said, just like putting his head down and getting downfield, but he can also catch the ball and has, like, that route running that, like, that you want out of a running back, which I think is just, it's a crazy, like, it's a crazy duo being able to have that route running and receiving ability along with that just insane downhill running. Basically, if you get to the second level, you're not being tackled.
Yeah, and we mentioned, I think it was before the show, how we think he's the best pass protector in the draft right now. I saw a couple times where he blew up the linebacker. Not a linebacker didn't fall or anything, but it was definitely a wake up call. They were like, "Oh shit, who's this guy?" But yeah, I like Javonte Williams a lot. It kind of reminds me of last year how Okudah and Henderson was elite at his coverage skills, where Okudah was really good in a lot of different areas. Kind of reminds me of Javonte Williams on how he's really good in a lot of different areas. So definitely, if he can excel at all of those areas, he could have the highest ceiling. But Michael Carter is my fourth. I believe you guys both have Gainwell as your fourth. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, we'll talk about Gainwell next. Do you guys have Michael Carter? I don't think Alec did.
I do not have Michael.
And then Chase, did you?
Yeah, I have him at 6.
Okay, so we'll talk about Kenneth Gainwell next, out of Memphis. What'd you guys like out of him?
So I've talked about Kenneth Gainwell for quite a while. He's a guy I really liked in this draft, and only recently have I put Devonte Williams above him when I really sat down and watched Devonte Williams, just isolated his runs and watched him play, not just the whole game. That's really the only time that it changed. But this whole narrative that Kenneth Gainwell is just going to go in the NFL and be a receiving back is a bunch of malarkey, if you ask me. The way he hits holes, his patience behind the line, it's tremendous. He reminds me, as a receiving back, it's like James White, but just imagine James White was actually competent at running the ball. It's what Kenneth Gainwell is. He's someone that I would trust running the ball, 200, 250 times a game, and then he catches the ball well too. Kind of like, I think he could run it more than Kamara, catch it maybe a little less than Kamara, so have a similar type of workload that Kamara has. Not necessarily be a Kamara type of player, but that's what he can do. He has plenty of talent. And sure that there's a couple things that he could work on, just maybe finding holes a little bit better, even though he does find them well, and just being a little more patient, even though I still think he is pretty patient. If he can just improve both those things, he'll be elite.
Yeah, I absolutely love him. He's definitely one of my favorite backs in this draft, and while he didn't play last season, the season before that he did play, he had over 2,000 all-purpose yards as a redshirt freshman, over 1,400 rushing yards, over 600 receiving yards, and 16 touchdowns. That's crazy as a redshirt freshman. The one thing that like Chase said about people think he's going to be a receiving back in the NFL, I understand the worries because he doesn't have that larger frame like you look at a lot of these NFL running backs. He does have a similar frame to Kamara, but he doesn't necessarily have the elusiveness that Kamara has. Well, I'm not saying he's not elusive, he definitely is, and he has that great speed. I think he's going to be great in the NFL, but I definitely do think that he isn't going to be that type of running back who's going to get 20 carries and then 8 or 9 targets. I think he'll be more of a 12, 13 carries and then 8 or 9 targets and stuff. He'll be a true I think he could be a workhorse, but he's not going to lean one way or the other. It'd be almost an even split between carries and receptions, just because he's not that you're not going to send him up the middle on a run. You're going to try and have him get the edge. So
And I just want to say real quick, imagine like, so Alec has a guy, Randare Stevenson, he'll talk about later, who I debated putting in this list, but I didn't. Say you had like, you know, a back like Randare Stevenson, then you had a back like Gainwell in your NFL running back group. I mean, that would be like the perfect scenario because you can have Randare, he can like really grind out the early yardage and then, you know, try to just get in the end zone close in. But then when you're running the 2-minute drill or you're in the passing game or trying to come back, you throw Kenneth Gainwell out there and you use him everywhere. It'd be like a great scenario.
That's how I view the Packers, like with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. So
That's
yeah,
fair.
I definitely agree.
I was gonna say, Devin Singletary and gosh, I'm forgetting the other guy's name. I just had it in my head.
Moss.
Yeah, Zach Moss. No, but I've got Gainwell at my 6th spot, and I'd like to preface with I think there is a really good top 6. So don't think because I have him at my 6th spot that makes me, you know, hate him or anything. I think he's a good runner. And for the people that say he's only a pass catching back, I disagree, just like you guys said. The one thing, and I will say, I only watched 2 games from Gainwell. All the film that I've watched up to this point were 2 different games. And both of the games, I saw similar problems where he... At times, he would go down a little bit easy, and then at times, he would try to make the extra play, and it would result in losing yardage. And that's always something as a flag football coach that I preach, that you may want to try to make a play, but never run backwards. Never run backwards. Even if you think you can get the edge on the other side, if you run back a little bit, don't do it, because it's always going to result in one of the worst possible scenarios. And I saw that with Gainwell a couple of times in the 2 films that I watched. I like him a lot. When Alvin Kamara's name came up, I know you guys weren't comparing him, but you were comparing what a type of workload would come up. I honestly don't think Kamara and Gainwell's name should even be mentioned together. I think there's kind of a big difference. I think that this running back class as a whole is pretty weak, but the top 6 I do like. Do I think that Gainwell is going to be a 3-down back and going to be a really good starter for an NFL team? No, I don't. I think that he can be a very serviceable back and think that he can be a top of the line backup or be a bottom of the line starter. I don't know. When I was watching him, I was seeing Devin Singletary. I know Chase disagrees with that, but I think when you compare him to the rest of the draft class, he's pretty damn good. When you compare him to the rest of the NFL and other running back draft classes, he's average.
That's fair.
I'll have to slightly disagree because I think he's more above average. So yeah, eat it.
That's fine. That's fine. I totally understand that. And then your guys' number 5, I believe, is Trey Sermon, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, this is a guy that I have over Gainwell. I have him as my number 5 as well. Michael Carter sits at number 4. We'll talk about him next. But Trey Sermon is a guy that hasn't really been able to get a big workload. He was at Oklahoma splitting carries with Brooks. He was over in Ohio State. Didn't get the full workload until the end, and then he got injured. But this is a guy with an immense amount of just pure talent. And if Trey Sermon didn't get injured, there was a possibility that Ohio State had a better chance against Alabama.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to preface with this. Us 3, we are a lot higher on Trey Sermon than the rest of the industry, especially like the media and analysts. Like Sermon isn't a guy that's in the top 5 of many people's running backs, but like we us 3, we think we know what we're doing pretty well. We think that we honestly are smarter than a lot of these analysts, but they've just been working at it for longer, so they've got the recognition. And we all are pretty consensus here on Sermon. We think he's just a legit running back who he finally started getting the opportunity this year. And once he was just given the ball and Master Teague was hurt and then not really getting as many chances, Sermon just took off with it. And I think the same kind of thing can happen in the NFL. When he gets the opportunity, he could really run away with it. He could have a lot of boom potential. The good size at about 6'10" or 6 foot 215. Like that's
6'10".
6'10" would be massive.
That's 6 foot 215. That's great size for a running back. And he's great protecting the ball. He finds the holes. He's not afraid of contact. I mean, he really has those tools that you look for out of an NFL running back.
My viewpoint on him is I think he's either going to be a very good starter in the NFL and have a great career, or he's going to be a career backup. And I do think that if they gave him, like in college, if he had more opportunities, he would without a doubt be higher on this list. Like, and another big reason I feel like all of us have him so high is Mike, as a Michigan State fan, me and Chase as a U of M fan, we watch Big Ten football. We watch it a lot. So we see Trey Sermon play. And we see that he just has that, like Mike said, has that pure talent, has that ability. And it's just, he is definitely a great runner, great player. And I'd understand, like, people are down on him, like, especially now because of the injury. And I agree with Mike that if he didn't get injured, I think they would have had a better shot against Alabama, maybe even could have won. And I think if Trey Sermon didn't get injured, I would have even had him above Gainwell. But, you know, I definitely agree with Chase that he definitely is that pro-style running back, and he can definitely make an impact at the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sermon, the injury, we'll have to see how he comes back from it, hoping that everything is perfectly fine and he's going to get back to where he was towards the end of last season. Also, why we have Trey Sermon at number 5, we're talking about his attributes and stuff, and he does have great attributes. He does have nice size, but it's not near where, you know, Travis Etienne and Najee Harris are, because if it was, he wouldn't be at number 5. But the one thing that I love the most about Sermon, I'm going to compare it to Nick Chubb, but his mindset and the way that he just keeps moving forward. I mean, Nick Chubb, I know a lot about Georgia football because my dad is a huge Georgia football fan, but Nick Chubb had one of the most gruesome injuries in college, and it was said that it's done. He's got no more draft stock in the NFL. Who knows if he's going to be able to come back and actually play. And here he is, one of the best backs in the NFL right now. He's got the mindset. He's even in game, it shows his mindset. He's just going to keep pushing. If he doesn't get a yard or two on the first carry, he'll get 8 yards the next carry. So that's just something I saw from Trey Sermon in his film, is just the will to just keep going and break tackles and do whatever he can to make the biggest play. He always fights for that extra yardage, and that's the thing that I love the absolute most about Trey Sermon.
I love that too. He's not flashy. He plays with heart. Like, you look at like these guys like Najee Harris and Etienne, like they're like those flashy kind of players. But when you look at Trey Sermon, like, I don't know, it's weird to describe, but when you watch someone, you can just tell like when you watch Nick Chubb in the NFL, like you said, you just watch the way he plays. He's not flashy. He's not doing all this like crazy stuff when you know he's going to score. He goes into the end zone, and that's about it. And that's the type of player Trey Sermon is. He's not that like all get up in your face and stuff. He's like, I'm here to play, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dude that just like loves contact, really, is what it is. You know, I said he's not afraid of contact. I really should have phrased it this way. He loves contact. He's not like Derrick Henry, but you know, like how Derrick Henry, he's better after he gets hit. He just seems to move a little bit faster, or if he gets tackled, he moves a little harder. Kind of, you know, Nick Chubb is the same type of thing. It's exactly what Trey Sermon does. And if he can find that consistency at the NFL level, and he's gonna have a tremendous career.
Yeah, and I think this is where we start to slip in our rankings when it comes to all of us agreeing on people. Chase, you had Michael Carter 6, right?
Yep.
I had him at 4, and Alec didn't have him in the top 8. But with those combined rankings, I think he would be the next one to talk about. So, Michael Carter, what do you like about him, Chase? And then after, Alec, if you can go into why he wasn't in your top 8.
So I know you and I are in a sort of boat here. Like he's a smaller dude, but like we think he could legitimately have some success in the NFL. You know, at 5'8", 199, it's not necessarily just like a true build. But when you look back and think on it, 2 of the best running backs, you know, in NFL history, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, probably the 2 best. This is about what they were size wise in the NFL. So these guys, like the ones that end up being legendary, you know, they have this kind of size. And Michael Carter, I'm not saying he's going to be a legend by any means. That's obviously bold to predict. But he's someone who could legit have some NFL success. You know, he moves really well side to side. He should run low to mid 4.4s. He's going to end up running pretty fast. He fights off contact even despite being smaller because he's so thick. And, you know, having that thickness combined with that speed and agility, it's really, a pretty aspiring kind of tool, like skill set. And I don't want to forget too, he catches the ball well. You know, Devonte Williams was looked at as like the receiving back of that group, but Michael Carter still caught a lot of balls and still looked pretty good doing it too.
Well, all right. So the reason why I don't have him on my list is just the fact that he's so undersized. Like I know, like Mike Chase just mentioned, like some of these all like amazing running backs are smaller. You look at the NFL now, and it's turning into like a bigger running back game. Like you rarely see these like really short guys and small guys making it big in the NFL. And like maybe if he was 5'8", like 225, like a little bit bigger and still at that speed. But the fact that he is just so small, he's like something like 5'8", maybe 200, if not less. So like that kind of makes me nervous. Also, just watching some of his film, like there's certain times where I think he has like insane patience, great vision, knows what hole to hit. But then there's other times where he just like completely misses the wide open hole that was made for him. I don't know if you guys noticed that same thing when you were watching, but like I feel like that happened more often than I would like in a running back I want to put in my top 5 or 6.
So I did not see that. But again, I only gave 2 games of film for Michael Carter a watch. I thought he had awesome vision, especially when he got into the second level. There were a couple runs where it was just him and the safety, and instead of running at the safety, he would break off to the outside, go around the receiver. That would create a pick for him. So I think he had great ability when it came to vision downfield. And the one thing that I just kept going back to when watching his film was Austin Eckler. I get the size. People aren't a big fan of the size thing, and some people may compare him to Tariq Cohen because Tariq Cohen doesn't have that huge size, but I think he's like an Austin Eckler. I mean, he is a really good runner. He is shifty. He's much more, when I was talking about Javonte Williams and how he's kind of a bull, he's kind of like super loose and clumsy-ish. Michael Carter, he's a little bit more mechanic, and he's got the cuts. He's got the quick cuts and everything. The reason he's not higher for me, I have him at 4. The reason he's not higher for me is some of the things you guys said, where the holes weren't, hit at the right time. Now I only saw that a couple of times, and there was times where he would make, a couple overzealous moves against secondary opponents and he would get tackled. But I think he reminds me a lot of Austin Eckler. He's got very good elusiveness. He's a very smart mechanical runner that keeps his eyes downfield.
Yeah, that's fair. And that Tariq Cohen thing, I think that's garbage because Tariq Cohen, he's the smallest dude in the league, and he's not necessarily as like thick in comparison to Michael Carter. He's more of that just like extremely elusive and fast and try to like dodge you, get around you. Or Michael Carter, he's gonna do the same, but like he can take on that contact and get by it too. Now, like the reason I have him at 6, even though I'm praising him highly because I think he can have legit success. I really like my top 7, maybe even top 8 running backs. I think they all have a chance in the right situation to become legit NFL starters. Some guys are safer than others, of course. But if one dude were to flop, it would be him because, I've talked about the greats having that size, but we've also seen plenty of guys at the size who do fail, as Alec mentioned. So it could be kind of a hit or miss thing, but I lean more towards a hit than miss.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. Chase and Alec, did you guys have any players in the same boat?
For the rest of our list, no. You and I
do not believe so.
You and I both had Kylan Hill, and then that was the only other shared player left on the list.
Yeah, let's talk about Alec's 6 first. You had Randare Stevenson, right, at 6?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about him first, and then we'll talk about Kylan Hill after that, and then we'll finish up with the names that none of us have in common.
I think with Randare Stevenson, I see a lot of Javonte Williams in him, except obviously Stevenson is a little bit bigger. Obviously, I don't think he's going to have the speed as Javonte Williams. I think he's going to, obviously, his 40 is going to, without a doubt, be in the mid to high 4.5s. But he's definitely the hardest. I think he's the hardest running back in this class. He can really plow through people, but also while he is big and a bruising running back, he also can touch the football and can get it down, actually run routes downfield, not just all these short little checkdowns and stuff. That was something I noticed while watching film, which I really loved, and he definitely has the skill set to be a 3-down back. While he's not going to have that speed, obviously, like I said, he has that ability. He has some elusiveness, but he also has that ability to just absolutely plow through people, which I absolutely love.
So, Randare Stevenson is a guy I debated putting on this list. I decided not to, because I think my 8 guys have a chance to become like number 1 running backs in the running back room, where I think Randare Stevenson would truly best serve in a committee or as a number 2. He ended up clocking in a 4.63 at Oklahoma's Pro Day, which, like, for his size, for someone being that thick, really is not bad at all, because he's over 240 pounds at 6 foot. He's a thick dude. You know, he's a borderline linebacker. So, like, for that size, it's really not bad at all. He's not elusive by any means, but he does have decent change of direction. So, like, he's not gonna go out there and juke you, but, like, he doesn't have an issue if he's running straight downfield and needs the cut, inside or towards the sideline. He can do it, solid enough where he's gonna make guys miss. And then when he does have to throw the contact, he'll break it. It's kind of like an A.J. Dillon type of runner. He could definitely have some success in the NFL, but I can't ever see him being like the guy.
One quick thing that I forgot to mention is if Javonte Williams isn't the best pass blocker in the league, then Randare Stevenson is, without a doubt. It's like 1A and 1B for me, like watching him run blocking. Like he was the same as Javonte Williams, where he would just like absolutely light up the linebacker when he would come in. And that's something else that I really liked about him.
A guy that Randare Stevenson reminds me a lot of is a former Oklahoma Sooner, Samaje Perine, except I think Stevenson is better in the passing game. He's better out of the backfield and as well as pass blocking. But I think their run styles are pretty similar, and the fact that they're both just giant human beings and they are very bruising, but at the same time, like, it's not as clean. It's not as smooth. Like a Najee Harris, who's got extreme running ability, best running back in the draft class, best pure runner, I should say, in this draft class. You don't get that out of Randare Stevenson. I think that this is where I have him as kind of a backup in a committee type of role. Agree with Chase. Samaje Perine just keeps coming back up to me. Like, when I was watching him, it compared really, really similarly in the run game to Samaje Perine, who is currently a Bengal and got some reps as the number 1 running back, but that's because Mixon was out.
I'd say he's better than Samaje, but I get what you're saying.
Interesting, for sure. I mean, like I said, I think he's better in the passing game, but on the running game, I didn't see it. But all right, let's move on to other running backs here. Kylan Hill from Mississippi State. This was the guy, Chase, I was telling you about last night, that he could be my favorite running back in this draft class. Everything that I watched about him just made me think of Joe Mixon. What do you think about Kylan Hill? Why do you have him in your top 8?
I mean, I got to agree. It's a Joe Mixon type of runner, a guy who can, he can do it all. He runs the ball well. He has, good size where he can power through. He's good, side to side. He catches the ball well. It really impresses me what he did at Mississippi State. I just don't know how elite the level is going to be in the NFL. I saw a lot of success, a lot of high level, but I don't know if I ever saw quite elite level when I saw him running. He makes plays that you'd expect good college running backs to make. He didn't necessarily make unreal, just crazy exceptional plays, but I do really want to commend him because I just honestly didn't know that much about him until I started watching film. And when I watched him running the ball, I figured he was going to kind of struggle as a pass catcher. Then I saw, a couple, red zone targets, over the shoulder catches. I was like, oh, damn, that's kind of impressive. So I had to put him into my top 8 here. Got him at number 8. He could have success. He could be a team's sole running back. I just think it's more likely that it doesn't happen, that he might need another guy with him.
Yeah, for sure. Allie, do you know much about Kylan Hill?
I don't know a ton. I watched some film from him. And the one thing for me is, like, obviously, I think it was 2019. Like, he had a great rushing attack, but I keep seeing him praised for his receiving ability. But his receiving ability it's such a small sample size for me. Like, I don't understand. Like, people are praising it, but I need a bigger sample size to give someone like props for something like that. So that's a big reason why I didn't have him.
Yeah, I get that for sure. And when I was watching this film, I keep saying Joe Mixon. That's exactly what I saw. I mean, just the body shape, the running style reminded me so much of Joe Mixon. The way he was breaking tackles reminded me of Joe Mixon as well. The receiving abilities there. I get that you really haven't gotten a big enough sample size because his freshman year, he didn't do much. His sophomore year was in a committee. Last year, he finally got that full workload. And then this year, he played in, I believe it was only 3 games, got in a little scrum in the locker room with a teammate, and then opted out for the rest of the season. So it's the sample size really isn't there except for last year. But when I look at the tape, I just think that if this guy can go about it with the right attitude, and that's gotta be a question mark, is the attitude issues if he's getting into it with teammates in the locker room. I don't know much of anything else when it comes to attitude wise, but that right there alone brings a question mark with it. If he can go at it with the right attitude, go at it with a Trey Sermon type of attitude, the ability's there. So he's one of my favorite running backs just because he reminds me of my favorite player in the NFL, and that's Joe Mixon.
It's fair.
All right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
We have, 4 more running backs to talk about? I think we got to talk about Chase's 7, Alex 7 and 8, and then my 8. So, Alec, we'll go with one of your guys next. Who'd you have at number 7 again?
Javion Hawkins out of Louisville.
All right, Javion Hawkins. Let's talk about him.
This, I watched, I knew nothing about him. I was just, watching film for some running backs. I was not going to put him in this list because, like I said, I had no idea who he was. But I watched film for him from last year, and he's electric. He is so much fun to watch, and he's a little small on the smaller side, 5'9", like 180. I know that was kind of a big reason I was against Michael Carter, but the big thing for me is like his speed is just insane. He hits holes so fast, the fastest out of any running back that I watched film for. He has just insane acceleration, and I just loved watching that. And I like when he earlier in the show you were saying about there's a lot of these players who are trying to do too much in the backfield, do too many moves and then get tackled in the backfield. Majority of the time he would do those moves and almost always turn it into a positive play. And I just absolutely love that. He didn't really necessarily show patience. Obviously, he's slow on my list, but he has just insane agility, makes these guys miss. And even though he is small, he can break a few tackles here and there, which I thought was kind of crazy. He also has great route running, and they actually used him in a lot of downfield passes too. And he was great with that. He would always have separation from the defender and catch the ball in the end zone. He's fast enough to pretty much beat any linebacker. And he has enough agility and decent enough route running to beat some corners too. So I really like him, and I think he's really underrated.
Yeah, I'd agree. He's a fun guy to watch. I did watch film on him. My issue with everything, though, I just don't know if all of it translates to the NFL level. He does it at the college level, which is great. But I don't know how he can sustain at the NFL level without putting on 15, 20 pounds. And at that point, it'll slow him down. It'll, cut away some of his elusiveness. It'll cut away some of that playmaking ability. So I just don't think it can translate to the NFL, really, is my issue.
I never think that he's going to be he's not the type of player that I think is ever going to be a workhorse in the NFL, but I think he could be someone similar to a Boston Scott or even eventually a Darren Sproles sort of role. He has that ability, that speed, the burst to be that big play guy that you want to bring in, behind your other running back. That if you just give him 7 or 8 carries a game, and he could just he could get that one big play for you and get you downfield. So that's why I like him a lot.
Yeah, real quick, I think that's fair and possible, but as I said, I think my 8 guys, I think all have the chance to become possible RB1s for their team. That's why. So, sorry, Mike, go for it.
Yeah, and right there, what you were talking about, Alec, how you can put him in a couple plays and he might bust off that big play, and it'll all be worth it if you put him in, and that happens. Kind of reminds me of, Ronald Jones, where obviously Ronald Jones is bigger than Javion Hawkins, but Ronald Jones is a guy similar when I looked at Hawkins' film where it's just all speed. Now, he's not the best at breaking off tackles. Can he do it? Yeah. He's not the most gifted receiver. Can he do it? Yes. But he's a guy where if he breaks out and breaks into the second level, he's gone. And that's something that reminds me a lot of Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones definitely picked up his play this year. However, as a whole, I haven't been his biggest fan. He's a guy that just seems to go down a little bit too easy. And with a Javion Hawkins who plays similarly, but is even more undersized than Ronald Jones, I think he could be a really cool gadget back, but again, that's why he wouldn't be in my top 8. I don't see him ever as being a true starter in the NFL. All right, Chase, your number 7 was
Jarrett Patterson out of Buffalo, baby. So everyone remembers this dude. He's the one who had 8 touchdowns in a game this year. If you don't remember that, then you weren't paying attention to college football at all. It was electric. Yeah, it's the MAC. I get it. Regardless if it's the MAC, if it's Bama, I don't care. When you score 8 touchdowns, when you run for over 300 yards, and when you do it the way that he did it, it's impressive. He didn't just dodge tackles and find open holes and have easy defenses to run through. He was breaking tackles. He was catching the ball too. He was doing literally everything that you would expect out of an all-purpose back. He did it all in that game. And then I went and watched a couple more games, and he just kept doing it. He just kept doing it more and more. The problem is, he's playing a MAC team, so he's not getting that recognition that he probably should deserve. But I legitimately think that he's not that big at 5'9", 195. If he can add 8 to 10 pounds, it might slow him down a little bit, but shouldn't make too much of a difference. And I don't think the way he cuts and the way he powers through it'll make anything worse there. It'll only make it better. He could be a legit sleeper in this draft, a guy you get in the 4th, 5th round who becomes your number 1 running back and becomes just an absolute monster.
I've watched, I didn't watch a ton of film on him. I do remember I don't remember who they were playing, but I think we were actually all hanging out. And when we were hanging out, someone said that he was at 300 yards in the 3rd quarter, and he ended up going out for over 400. So I thought that that's obviously crazy, but the competition at the MAC is obviously not great. And like you said, he is a little bit undersized, but I don't know. Just watching his film, he doesn't it looks like he's playing in high school. He looks like a high school running back, not like a pro or even a college level. I don't know how to describe it. He plays he plays careless. I feel is a good way to put it. That's the best way I can describe it, honestly.
Okay, and I think with Patterson, Chase said he plays in the MAC. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. All that. When I watched this film, he did great things statistically, but the athleticism just didn't really look there for me. It did in the MAC, but when he gets to that next level, is he going to have that speed? Is he going to have that athleticism? Is he going to be able to maneuver around the best players in the world? I don't think so. There were a lot of close calls on his runs, on his really big runs, his highlight runs, where if he's in a better division like the SEC or if he's in the NFL, it's not going to work. So I think that he has a good attitude and he's a grinder, and that's going to be something that can help him. But it kind of reminds me of a Carlos Hyde type, where the athleticism and the ability overall just isn't up to that next level.
See, but I really hate the whole talent level, the talent level you're playing against in college debate, because a lot of these guys, the reason they go to these schools is because they're under recruited and coming out of high school because they're undersized or they're just, not physically developed, and then they get to college and they develop and they dominate. So this happens all the time. We've seen just countless, group of 5 Division II type play, those level players, FCS, go on and have great success in the NFL. And it's just the same kind of case here. Jarrett Patterson, he was under recruited because he was even smaller than he was coming out of high school. He grew, put on some weight. So he didn't get, a ton of big school recognition, but he just went and dominated, and he's going to go to the NFL. He might not get an opportunity right away because he's going to be a lower draft pick. And I think that's fair. He should be a lower draft pick, just because there is some skepticism to it. But when he gets the opportunity, I really think he's going to run away with it. We've seen it too many times with guys in a similar situation. And you saying that you don't know if it's going to translate. I do think it's going to translate. I think it's impressive. Saying the athleticism wasn't there, I think, is just completely untrue because he does great avoiding tackles. He's great side to side. He gets to the sideline quick and he moves down the field. He does everything that I would want out of a running back. Except I do want to say, of course, the pass protection. I haven't talked about that a lot because you guys have always brought it up and agreed. The pass protection definitely could improve.
Yeah, that could be the case. I mean, he could translate for sure. A lot of the things that he does on the field is what you want to see out of a running back. But there's a lot of times where when I was watching, there's just a lot of close calls in a division with not a lot of athleticism. So with those close calls, they're not going to be close calls. They're going to be shut down at the next level. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, if it goes your way, I'll admit I was wrong. And when it does go my way, you can let me know that you were wrong. But Alec, we'll move on.
For you to tell me that you were wrong.
Alec, we'll move on to your last guy before we mention Chuba Hubbard. So I just looked. We're on an hour and 15 minutes. So let's try to get through these last two guys pretty quickly here.
All right, so my last guy is Jermaine Martin out of North Carolina A&T. And the funny thing is, I had no idea who this guy was until a random YouTube video popped up on my suggested setting, like it was titled, "The Running Back No One Is Talking About." And so I watched and then started watching a bunch more film, and I absolutely love this guy. He, obviously, another small school guy, actually the same school that Tariq Cohen went to, but he smashed all of Tariq Cohen's rushing records. He averaged 7.7 yards per carry on 187 carries. He has that bruising ability, but also has great burst and downfield speed. Great pass blocker. But the one big thing is he has 10 receptions in 4 years in college, so he does not have that passing ability. But if you watch him, I honestly think he's up there with I think he's a better pure runner than what's his name? I think he's a better pure runner than Randare Stevenson, even not on a Najee Harris level, but he just looks absolutely insane. He lights up the field, so much fun to watch, and I can't find any downsides to his running game. He has explosiveness, he has great footwork, and cut on a dime, and just looks great. So, but small school, so you never know. Also, no pass game ability.
Yep. Chase, do you know much about Jermaine Martin? Sorry.
Nope. I've never heard his name, so I'm gonna watch him as soon as we're done.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So
I look forward to watching him. But continue, Mike. Sorry.
I watched a little bit, and I did like what I see. My biggest worry for him and why he's not in my range is he only has 203 total attempts as a fifth-year senior. So that's my biggest gripe. Smaller school, only 203 attempts as a fifth-year senior. That worries me a lot. If he couldn't get the reps at a smaller school like this, if he couldn't be that superstar for many, many years, then that does worry me a little bit. However, his tape does look good. He is a very exciting player to watch.
One other really big thing with him is he actually left. I think it was Coastal Carolina because of legal issues. So there are character concerns. That's another reason why. I definitely think he's going to make a roster, whether it's the undrafted free agency or if he is drafted. But there is those character concerns there as well.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last but not least, my number 8, we got Chuba Hubbard. This is a guy who was one of the best running backs, if not the best running back, in last year's college football landscape. This year, he came out a little bit flat. However, I have him here because if he could do it before, why can't he do it again if he's in the right system? And right here is where my list kind of fell off. Guys I didn't think that were going to be starters, so I was like, you know what? I'll go with a guy who showed the potential at one point, even if it wasn't in his most recent season.
Yeah, this is a big shame because I love Chuba Hubbard. I loved him last season. I was looking forward to seeing what he could do, and I knew that. All right, he still needs to improve, in the receiving game because he's fine. But if you got this kind of speed, if you can be good in the receiving game, you could be an absolute weapon. And then, of course, you got to work on pass blocking because it's I would do better right now. I have holes in my arms. I haven't lifted a weight in 5 years. I would do better pass protecting. But that's not the case. He didn't improve enough in the receiving game. He did not look good enough as a runner. I would have taken him in the third round last year if he entered the NFL draft. Honestly,
I agree.
He was a day 2 pick for me. So the fact that things changed, he's still going to be a draft pick. I would take him day 3, 5th, 6th round. Just take a chance on him because he does have that speed. He does have the pass production, but like it looked bad this year is my issue with it.
Another big thing for me with him is medical concerns. Like he does have an injury history, and pairing that with like just the abysmal pass protecting, it makes me nervous. And I think that there's going to be a lot of teams that aren't willing to take a risk on him. But you can't deny his stats from the year last season. He had over 2,000 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns. Like that's just absolutely insane. And it's not like it's necessarily an easy division either. It's like obviously the skill's there, but I just want to know what happened between that year and like this most recent year, because I thought that he had a shot at even going like first round if he like could repeat that performance, but he just totally went downhill, and I don't understand it.
I think it's also because teams were able to stack the box against Oklahoma State. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard coming off of a 2,000-yard season, teams are going to prioritize him. And let's be honest, Oklahoma State doesn't have the best passing game in the league. So they were able to prioritize him a little bit more. He wasn't able to break his money tackles. I give him some leeway, though, because there was some controversy at the start of the season with him and his head coach, with COVID happening. Was he in the best shape? All of that kind of stuff. I think because we saw it before, and with the kind of everything was going against him in this past season, that just makes me think, okay, if he can get onto the right foot, if he can get on the right team and get off on the right foot, going in the right direction with all of his training and stuff, I think he'd be a very good back, could even be an everyday starter.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get in the train of everyday starter. I don't think quite yet. If he can figure it out, that'd be awesome. I'd love for it to happen. Good old Canadian boy, so it'd be cool to see. But it was really hard to watch this year, dude. I made it a priority to watch him this season because I loved him, and it was just painful. So hopefully he gets a chance somewhere. If he goes somewhere where there's like a big committee use, I think he can benefit a lot from that. Learn the ropes, develop a little bit more while still getting some playing time, and then maybe he can run out his game that way. So kind of like what the 49ers do. I don't think he'd go to a team like 49ers. They still are gonna have Raheem Mostert, but if he can find a team where he can do something like that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and go ahead, Alec.
I do think that he has a extremely high ceiling, but also has one of the lowest floors in the draft. So I do think that he has the potential to maybe be a number one back in the NFL, but he also, in my opinion, is more likely to kind of crash and burn, unfortunately.
And this is my one problem with this draft class is I think there's a lot of guys here outside of the top three that have a lot of really nice intangibles and look really good. But when you look around the NFL as a whole, there's not a lot of teams that are in need of a running back, and teams that are on kind of that, bridge like San Francisco. Like, do we think Raheem Mostert is an amazing running back? No. Does he have injury problems? Yes. But are any of these guys talented enough to beat out Raheem Mostert? I don't really know. So I think that overall the running back class is down as a whole. However, I think between that 4 and 7 range for my guys, there could be a case to be moved up and down and all of that kind of stuff. But we'll end the show here. Alec, why don't you go through your top 8? Then Chase, you can go through your top 8 once again, and then we can get out of here.
Alrighty. At number 1, Travis Etienne. 2, Najee Harris. 3, Javonte Williams. 4, Kenny Gainwell. 5, Trey Sermon. 6, Randare Stevenson. 7, Javion Hawkins. And 8, Jermaine Martin.
Number 1, Najee Harris out of Alabama. Number 2, Travis Etienne out of Clemson. Number 3, Devonte Williams out of UNC. Number 4, Kenneth Gainwell out of Memphis. Number 5, Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. Number 6, Michael Carter out of UNC. Number 7, Jarrett Patterson out of Buffalo. And number 8, Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State.
And then I rounded out with Travis Etienne, number 1, Najee Harris, number 2, Javonte Williams, number 3, Michael Carter, number 4, Trey Sermon, 5, Kenny Gainwell, 6, Kylan Hill, number 7, And last but not least, Chuba Hubbard at number 8. That's going to do it for our running back ranking show. We really want to thank you guys for coming out and giving us a listen, giving us a watch if you are on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, make sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that bell to turn on notifications, and let us know your running back rankings down in the comments below. If you are on a podcast platform, if you could, give us a follow and rate us 5 stars. That would really help us. We would really appreciate that. If you want to stay up to date with what we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. Our Instagram and Facebook links are also down in the description. So if you want to follow us there, that would be really neat. That's going to do it for the show. We want to thank you so much for coming out. And as always, we're not professionals.